Greenwood produced many great entrepreneurs, but perhaps none has left such a lasting legacy on Tulsa as Simon Berry. Social entrepreneurship is a current buzzword in the business community, but this was the type of business that Berry conducted throughout his life. Berry's businesses met the needs of the community. His bus company paved the way for the Tulsa transit service we enjoy today. He used his fortune to develop parks that families continue to frequent. Author Hannibal Johnson wrote that Berry typified the entrepreneurial spirit of Black Wall Street. Historian Eddie Fay Gates described him as colorful, flamboyant, a smooth talker, and someone who grabbed with gusto the golden fleece of opportunity wherever he saw it. Early life Simon Berry was born on July 6, 1890 in Grenada, Mississippi. According to Selling Black History for Carter G. Woodson, a diary 1930-1933 by Lorenzo J. Green, Berry moved to Tennessee, where he taught auto mechanics at West Tennessee College. It is unclear when he moved to Tulsa, but early newspaper articles and records show that he was in Tulsa as early as 1915. It's said that Edwin McCabe may have motivated Berry to move to Oklahoma. Between 1890 and 1897, McCabe founded the town of Langston, Oklahoma, the Langston City Herald newspaper, and the Colored Agricultural and Normal University at Langston, which would later become Langston University. McCabe and a white associate, Charles Robbins, used the platform of the Langston City Herald to attract prominent black businessmen to Oklahoma's all-black towns. Journalist Victor Luckerson describes in his blog, Run It Back, that by 1900, there were 55,000 black people in Oklahoma, the majority of them born outside the state. A Tulsa World article from the morning of June 19, 1915, describes Simon Berry being charged with the shooting of city guard Doc Pigg. The two got into a fight near Pigg's home on Cheyenne Ave. The reason for the altercation is unknown. Berry wrestled the gun from Pigg and shot him in the temple. Although he wrote a confession while in jail, he pleaded not guilty when the case was brought to trial. There's no indication that Berry served time in jail for the shooting. Later that year, Berry married Alma Pittman on December 19, 1915, in Tulsa. The marriage announcement appeared in the Tulsa World. Their marriage certificate indicates that Reverend Charles R. Tucker officiated the marriage at Vernon AME Church. Berry's draft card, dated June of 1917, lists him as living at 29 N Cheyenne Ave, with his wife and 4-year-old son, Simon Berry, Jr. The 1920 Polk Directory and the 1920 census list the family living further away from the center of downtown at 801 E. Haskell, St. just off of Lansing Ave. Their 16-year-old nephew, Perry Campbell, was living with the family and employed as one of Berry's jitney drivers. Early 20th century Uber. In 1919, only white passengers were allowed to ride Tulsa's taxi service. Berry saw this as an opportunity for Greenwood and started a jitney service using his own topless Model T Ford. Jitneys were cars that were used to provide informal shuttle services. Think of using Uber without a phone. If you wanted a ride, you'd hail a passing jitney, or simply tell someone where you needed to go, and word would travel down Greenwood until a jitney driver found you and picked you up. A nickel would get you a ride as far as you wanted to go north or south along Greenwood Ave. Berry would take as many who would dare cram in or hang on. Passengers were undoubtedly taking a risk. In June of 1917, Berry himself was arrested for reckless driving. He pled guilty and paid a fine of $10. In 1924, two jitneys crashed into one another along South Lansing Ave. Near 6th St., a teacher, Julia Edith Duff, was seriously injured and sued the jitney service for $2,000. By the mid-1920s, the jitney service employed several drivers and operated routes along Greenwood Ave and Lansing Ave. There are no factual accounts of Berry's whereabouts or activity during the 1921 massacre. One myth is that he attempted to chase off the planes which were dropping explosives onto Greenwood on the morning of June 1st. While an aerial dogfight over Greenwood is a great story, there are no records or first-person accounts to substantiate it. Alan Matthew White, 4 years old when his family fled the violence, credits Barry's jitney cars for their escape. White explains that the cars would drive families to safety and then go back to pick up more people and drive them a safe distance away from the fires in Greenwood. Auto Mechanic Garage. With the money Barry was earning from his jitney venture, he built a mechanic garage on Archer Street. There, he returned to the early days of his career, training black mechanics. Many of Barry's students would earn a trade that set them up to provide a good living for their families. Interviewed for Eddie Fay Gates' book, Riot on Greenwood, The Total Destruction of Black Wall Street, Venice Dunn Sims recalls that her father, Arthur Fritz Dunn, was known as one of the best mechanics in Tulsa, black or white. Papa could fix any car or bus. Later, he moved this operation and established Barry Garage and Service Station at 802N Kenosha Ave. Bus Company. Not satisfied with just running a garage and jitney service, Barry began to invest in buying buses. 32 of his mechanics became the first bus drivers. With those buses, he was better able to serve black men and women who worked downtown or in South Tulsa with a better commute. An April 1978 article in the Public Transit History Journal, The Farebox, describes that the city of Tulsa approved Barry Bus Lines to operate a franchise on October 17, 1928. The new bus line received a shipment of 10,000 tokens from Meyer and Upwenthy in 1929. Barry Lines operated routes along Lansing and Greenwood Avenues. Riding a bus must have been a great upgrade from a topless Model T stuffed with passengers. According to A Century of African American Experience, Greenwood, Ruins, Resilience, and Renaissance, the company was sold to Union Transportation Company, with the provision that the same black drivers and maintenance workers he had hired would keep their jobs, and that black passengers would still be allowed to ride the bus. One of Barry's bus service riders was none other than Harlem Globetrotter and Sand Springs native Marquess Haynes, who recalls riding the bus line all the way from Sand Springs to the Greenwood neighborhood in his teens. Union Transportation Company was taken over by Chicago-based Tulsa City Lines, Inc. in February 1936. Tulsa City Lines held the bus franchise from 1937-1957. The city of Tulsa itself would not take over the operation of the bus system until 1968. Private plane charter Barry enjoyed driving, working on his cars, and teaching others his mechanic skills, but his real passion was flying. In a time when the entire state of Oklahoma had only 2 airports, 6 black families owned private planes. Of these, Barry and his business partner James Lee Northington were the first, earning their pilot's licenses and buying an open cockpit biplane in 1925. The two launched an air charter service, providing flights to both blacks and whites. The service would carry cargo or serve oil barons, who would visit their leases in surrounding counties. Between Barry's jitneys, buses, the air charter service, the auto garage, and the mechanic school, he employed more black people than any other entrepreneur in Tulsa. Collectively, Barry's entrepreneurial empire earned him approximately $500 per day, the equivalent of about $6,150 in today's dollars.